going to uh, include every human being in a what I would refer to as a government situation. And as I said before, governments are only interested in how one human being treats another. So this is the thing that human beings should be responsible for as they're dealing with each other. And I've had an unusual thing happen, and so I'm going to start with that. And the unusual thing I had happen to me was that I was pulling out of a driveway in a shopping center, and my car got hit very violently, and in fact, it got basically totally destroyed. Now, it is true that only the uh, part of the front of it, about a foot and a half in from the driver's side over to the passenger side, it was torn out, and it did not quite reach the front wheel. So it only took out the bumper and back to where the radiator was still intact. It wasn't even damaged. And so the first 12 to 16 inches of my automobile was half of it, a little over half of it, completely taken out by another vehicle. And when that happened, I thought it would cost a few $1,000s to fix it, but the Mercury insurance people came up there with their repair garage with $22,000. So Mercury totaled the car. They said it's only worth $21,000. So even though I had an accident where the front 12 to 14 inches of my car was taken off, it did enough damage to be absolutely, totally destroyed. Now, that was a little shocking to me. I had to go out and buy another car, and that is what we have insurance for. I knew I had insurance. I knew I'd have to pay the $1,000 deductible, and other than that, I'd have to just go out and buy a new car. So what I am doing this video about is that the people that deal with each other and the companies that they deal with have, I think, a responsibility to do the best they can to get it right. Now, it is true, the other driver immediately said, he ran into me, he ran into me. Well, the reason he was saying that was if someone runs into you, you're not responsible. So this driver was being totally irresponsible about his driving. He was driving over the speed limit without a doubt because of the damage that it did to my car. You cannot scrape up to a 12-inch piece off of a car normally and total it. In fact, in California, we have requirements that you can hit someone at 5 miles an hour, and they want the cars designed so that no damage is done. In other words, your bumper takes up the shock of the first 5 miles an hour, and you do no damage at all. Well, in this case, I was traveling about a half a mile an hour. So I was about 10 times slower than the speed limit I could have gone without causing any damage whatsoever. And the other thing that concerned me is that the other insurance company did the same thing. They said that we have done an investigation and we think you were at fault. Well, as it turned out, I realized that there is no way that anyone could look at the situation and check the damage to the vehicles and realize that I had anything to do with having the accident. Now, the reason that I am bringing this up is we know a lot of people do things that they're trying to be not responsible for, And the idea is if they get other people to go along with them, that demonstrates that the system doesn't work like it's supposed to. Because what is right is always right, and what is wrong is always wrong. And the truth is always right, and a lie is always wrong. So if the individual that was driving the other car wants to lie about who was responsible, uh, we understand that that happens. But when Mercury Insurance and the other insurance company was Progressive, and of course, Progressive always wants to think that their client is not responsible if they can, because when you're responsible for an accident, the insurance companies report that, and it actually raises your insurance if you're the one that's actually responsible. So it will go down according to Mercury. I did appeal with Mercury Insurance and say, looking at the damage of the vehicles, there is absolutely no way that this could possibly be my fault. And the lady from Mercury said, when you pull out into a lane that you are absolutely responsible for not going there unless it is safe to pull out into that lane. Well, the lady clearly did not understand what happened, because what I was doing was pulling out of a driveway in a shopping center onto a street that was 2 lanes going one way and 2 lanes going the other way, with a what you would call area in between the 2 lanes that trucks could park in and unload, because sometimes the shopping center is busy with vehicles, and the trucks that are delivering things have to park out in the street and then use their forklifts and things to take the things into the shopping center because of the limited space inside the shopping center. So when I was pulling out, I was coming into the number 2 lane, which is the slow lane, the one closest to the curb, and a truck was pulling up in that lane and giving his right turn signal, showing that he wanted to pull in to the shopping center parking lot. Now, I was at the stop sign pulling out of the shopping center parking lot. So I realized that that truck was going to take up more of the driveway than he had room for to turn into the shopping center. So I was going to move out of his way. So I started moving forward into the lane that he was blocking. And when I got a little over halfway into that lane, I felt my car violently get pushed to the right, and I saw when I got out of my car and looked around, the front of my car was scattered over the next 100 yards down the road. I realized I'd gotten hit very hard. It ended up being a Mercedes that hit me, and the guy driving the Mercedes immediately started saying, he ran into me, he ran into me. Well, I'm moving a half a mile an hour across the lane that is being blocked by a truck. And before I get all the way across that lane, my car gets hit. My car basically was coming out at a 90-degree angle. And so I have put down a picture of that so that you can see it. And anything that actually was an accident where I had run into would have happened at a 90-degree angle. And the injury to the vehicle clearly shows that there was no 90-degree angle accident that actually happened. The 90-degree accident would show that I was going straight into the car and the car would have been damaged on the side. Now, I'm sure that I do not have the pictures of the other vehicle, but the other vehicle had to be towed away. That leads me to believe that the passenger side wheel was damaged to the point the car could not be steered, and therefore you could not drive it away from the accident. On the other hand, my vehicle, they drove a couple of times getting it out of the street in the way. They put it to the side of the car, and one of the policemen said, "You should put it in the driveway." So they got back in my car and moved it again and put it in a driveway next to the driveway I was coming out of, which is the driveway for a commercial building. And so it stayed there until AAA came and took my car away. And in the meantime, I have gone through the pictures where you can see the angle the car was damaged at. You can see on the passenger side that it is damaged all the way back to the tire. So the first part of the vehicle, not including the radiator, was damaged pretty severely. But the rest of the vehicle basically was not damaged at all. And I have to say that I was a little surprised that only having a foot to 18 inches of the car hit and being totaled with that small portion of the vehicle being struck was a shock to me. And I did not even begin to believe that it would take $22,000 just to repair the problems that I had. But what that tells me is my vehicle was struck at a fairly high rate of speed in order to do the damage to it that would get with only 12 inches of the car, 12 to 15 inches of the car being damaged, to actually total the entire value of the vehicle. And so therefore, I know that there were a lot of things that were hurt, and they could only be hurt if they were struck very severely. It's like anything that gets damaged. You can take a hammer and hit a clay jar, and if you hit it very lightly, you'll crack it. If you hit it a little harder, you can knock a hole in it. But if you hit it hard enough, with enough force, you can probably totally shatter the entire vessel. And that is the kind of thing that happened to my vehicle. It was hit so hard and damaged so severely, even though it doesn't look like it from the pictures. It looks like it should be able to be repaired for a few $1,000s, but we know only from the damage alone that the insurance repair people had given Mercury the estimate for, and it was towed to one of Mercury's repair facilities that they used all the time, and that is why Mercury relied on their assumption that it would take $22,000 just to repair my vehicle, to put it back to the way it should have been before it was struck by the other vehicle. And the damage to my vehicle was severe. The pictures do not show the damage as being that critical. And to me, I was also very shocked that it turned out that way. But since it did turn out that way, that is what happened. And therefore, we have the problem that the vehicle had to be totally abandoned. It had to be used for garbage. It could never be sold again. I had to sign it off that I would not have any interest in the vehicle any longer, but they also had the car totaled, so they could not register the vehicle with anyone else. It had to be sold for scrap metal with what was left on the vehicle. And here was a vehicle that could actually be driven, the vehicle was not damaged more than 12 to 18 inches into the vehicle from the front. And it seemed to me like that someone with a little bit of ingenuity could get his welding material under there and put a bumper back on it to make it look like that it would do the job that it needed to do. Now, I can only assume from the amount of damage that it is very expensive to try to reconstruct the shock absorber design on automobiles so they can go 25 miles an hour, have a collision, and not show any accident whatsoever. But I guess the items that were so damaged cost a lot of money to put back into place, and therefore that's why my vehicle was totaled. I did not want to argue with the gentleman. I knew that he just did not want to be responsible for his unsafe driving attitude. And if he had hit me in the car door instead of just in the front of my car, I'm sure I would not be alive today. So I'm thankful that I did not get hit by someone that was even more irresponsible than he was. But what surprised me is when Mercury took his attitude that I had run into him and determined from that evidently that information alone that I was at fault. Well, I know I was not at fault. I don't know if Mercury will change their mind, and Progressive, I'm quite sure, are not going to. And what it may do is raise my insurance, and I may have to change insurance companies and convince them that it was not my fault, that Mercury was mistaken in concluding that, and get back down with insurance that's reasonable. But this kind of thing made me realize that I'm not alone in the world. There are things that happen to people all of the time that they are not at fault in doing. Someone does something that is wrong, and they have to take the responsibility because other people say that they had done something that is wrong. Well, that's why I'm calling this the Occupiers series, because everyone that interacts with other human beings on the planet, whether they're male or female, have a responsibility to not hurt anyone or have anything happen to them that they would not want someone else to do to them. And clearly, if I were at fault, I'm sure the gentleman driving the other vehicle would not want me trying to blame him for causing the accident if it were my fault. So by that token, he should not have that attitude. Well, not everyone has the attitude we expect them to have. I've already talked about self-interest, and people a lot of times will put their own self-interest ahead of what's true and what is false. And when they do that, the system does get skewed up. Now, what I'm doing this video on is I realize that not only does it get screwed up, but now I realize that other like companies or other people that are on the periphery of what's going on, like insurance companies that have to pay for the damage and things like that, come up with opinions of theirself on their own. And Mercury came up with an opinion with their adjuster saying, I was at fault. Well, that is false. But that is the kind of thing that skews what goes on in the world. And that's why some people get blamed for things that they were not responsible for. So I thought that that would be a good thing to do a series on. And this is the first one of those. And I will start reviewing. And as people that have watched my videos know, I am a big fan of artificial intelligence, and with artificial intelligence, drawing conclusions about what's happened in the world many times will draw conclusions about these kind of things. But I've already realized from my investigation through the internet that people are basically not agreeing with artificial intelligence because they say that people put the wrong information in. And if you put the wrong information in, you do not get the right result. Well, I remember when I was young and computers were just being built by different companies and starting to basically, as I mentioned before, my wife, when her secretary started using the computer, replaced 6 secretaries doing work with 1 secretary knowing how to use the computer. So I am well aware that during the influx of the computers, that a lot of jobs were lost and people had to look for other things to do because the people with the computer could do a lot more than they could do with just having to do the work with the old-fashioned way, with the typewriter and pen and pencil. That artificial intelligence is an important factor, but back even when the computers got started and people were having to program, they called it programming the different programs that you had to make the computer do the things you wanted it to do. So a lot of things you do, you just put a figure in, and then the program of the computer puts everything where it's supposed to go so that it makes sense and accomplishes the job for you without you having to do it with everything. But even back then, they had the attitude and the terminology that the things that you put in have to be good. And if they're not good, you don't get a good result. And the term they used was garbage in, garbage out. So that means if you put the wrong things in, you're going to get the wrong results. And that hasn't changed a bit. It's just that everyone knows that. Computers now are built to try to have the computer check to make sure that there is no what we'd refer to garbage in there, that there aren't mistakes that can be accidentally made. And that way the programs work much more efficiently. And they're engineered to keep people from making mistakes. So it's good that I'm going to be doing this series, and I'm going to start looking at the different things in life that we have to deal with now that do not necessarily promote what I would refer to as the truth. And it would be the same in this case, since I did get hit and Mercury concluded that it was my fault. That is wrong. So that is garbage in, and it's going to be garbage all the way until it gets fixed. And so I will be doing the next few series on what people do and how they affect what is right and what is wrong, and what things could be done that if you put the wrong information in. I will go ahead and be showing the different pictures of my automobile and explaining to you that when you look at the driver's side and you see all the way to the front of the car is not damaged at all. And after you get in about 1.5 feet, you can see that the car was hit at that point and started bending the hood and moved everything toward the right of the car. And that was because of the collision that the Mercedes had with my automobile. And my automobile was a Mitsubishi Outlander. And the Mitsubishi Outlander is an SUV. And I thought it was a fairly substantial car. I have been very happy and proud of it. I've hit a few potholes that I did not see, and I know that this car has taken a pretty strong beating over the last few years. It's a 1922 Mitsubishi Outlander, and the Mitsubishi Outlander has served me very well. In fact, I've referred to this vehicle with people that this is the best vehicle I've ever had. And that is because it was an all-wheel drive. It was four-wheel drive all the time. It got gas mileage consistently over 20 miles to a gallon. And I was very, very happy with the vehicle. It had a tank in it that would almost take me 400 miles, so I could almost get from LA to San Francisco on one tank of fuel. Now, it wasn't quite there, so I did have to stop someplace along the way within an hour either direction because the tank wasn't quite big enough to get me the full distance. But it did get me almost 400 miles, and I thought that was very good. Like everyone else, I don't like to stop to have to get gas when necessary, so I was happy with the size of the tank. The tank was only about a 16-gallon tank. If it had been an 18-gallon tank, I would have been a little happier because I could have then made it all the way to San Francisco from LA on one tank of gas. But things don't always work exactly every way we want them to work. And I do miss having the vehicle now. I did buy another one, but what I did is I got a Mitsubishi Outlander, but it was also called a Sport. And I thought I was buying the same kind of car, but in fact, the Sport is a totally different model. I don't have the 3 rows of seats that my Outlander did. The Sport is shrunk down as a smaller car, and it does not have all of the advantages that my other one had, but it is a 2026. So I did get a 4-year newer car from a 22 to a 26, and I did have to pay an extra $8,000 to make that happen, from what they paid me for the car to what I bought the new one for. So for $8,000, I got a car that was 4 years newer. And so I hope to have that one for at least as long as I had my last one. And I expect that it should last probably twice as long as my last one did, because I hope that I am lucky enough not to be caught in such an unusual situation, and that no one is as reckless as this gentleman was that hit my car. And therefore, I will be able to enjoy the car for a lot longer and not have problems until I basically use up the lifespan of the automobile. And I'm going to call it Occupiers because I'll be referring to many different people and the actions of a lot of people along the way. And what I'm talking about when I say occupiers is, as I said before, when you talk about religion, people can believe anything they want to believe. But when you talk about government, you do not want to do anything that you would not want someone else to do to you. And I use the golden rule as the example for that. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And no one wants people to do things to them that are going to inhibit their life or damage it in any way, shape, or form. And therefore, we want to make sure that we continue sharing things that are a problem and how the problem can be fixed. And that will be what the series will be designed to try to accomplish. And with that, I'm going to draw this to a conclusion. I hope you enjoyed the pictures of the automobile. And if you see anything that you think is inconsistent with what I've concluded, I would be happy to hear about it. And with that, I'm going to say this is the end of Occupier number 1.